Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. We're a week away from the Breeders' Cup, and we're trying to get hot with graded stakes races all across the country to handicap. DRF handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will take a look at the Grade 2 Fayette Stakes from Keeneland, the Grade 3 Bold Ruler from Belmont, and the Grade 2 Twilight Derby from Santa Anita. Nicole Russo is going to spotlight one promising 2-year-old to watch on the Kentucky circuit in her pedigree pick segment. JK's got a Belmont pick 3 for his play of the day, and Craig Milkowski's Timeform US Spotlight looks at the Grade 3 Bold Ruler, one of 4 stakes races at Belmont Park on Saturday. Lots to cover this week, so let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst. It appears Chad Brown has another good 2-year-old.
Yeah, hard to believe Chad Brown would have another good horse in his barn. I felt like his first-time starter last weekend, though, Mask, another of those horses by Tappet who can really run. This is the horse's first-time starter, sprinting on dirt. He did not break well in his race, and I just felt like this horse ran, a really nice race. We don't have the replay, unfortunately, to show you. Here's his stallion page. He has a really nice pedigree on the dam side. Of course, he is a Tappet. They paid a lot of money for him, $685,000. And I just thought he ran a really nice race first time out, guys. I don't love the field that he beat, but he did a lot of good things in that race, and I like the way that he finished, and he got an 86 Beyer speed figure 4. This horse might have a little bit of a future for Chad.
Matt and I were watching that race while we were taping some of our stakes previews. This horse looked very, very strong first out and acts like he'll improve with a little bit more distance. Mid-Atlantic Matt Bernier, you got something at Laurel.
More than Likely is the name of this filly for Arnaud Delacour, Lyle Staples. We're going to take a look at her most recent start. This was against winners for the first time. You're going to see she's down on the inside, sprinting on turf. A little bit late to change lead. She's a little bit green throughout. She's a half to hootenanny. She's by Blame, so there's some good things here. She galloped out very, very well, and I just like the way that she finished. She came home in 38-4. She finished like she could be a good thing. Her career debut was washed off the turf, so this is her first time on the grass. I think this is what she's bred for, obviously. Again, Hootenanny, I understand, maybe it hasn't panned out as he's gotten older, but I think there's some things to like here. She's a 3-year-old. She's only run twice. I would assume when we stretch her out, maybe some bigger and better things.
Back in the summer at Saratoga, we all thought Mr. Haverkamp, making only his 3rd lifetime start following 2 very impressive wins at Woodbine, was going to be a big player in the Saranac Stakes at the Spa. Didn't work out that way for Mr. Haverkamp that day. He has since come back at Woodbine with 2 impressive performances, including this race last week. This race was the Bunty Lawless Stakes, and he just swings to the outside and inhales this field. He wins off by 7.5 lengths, earns a 100 Beyer speed figure in only his 5th lifetime start, and it looks like the sky's the limit for this horse. I'm not going to be of the opinion that his loss in the Saranac was because he was exposed against better company. I just think they tried him a little bit too much too soon. I'm really looking forward to see what we get from Mr. Haverkamp next year as a 4-year-old. He is trained by Catherine Day Phillips. Lots of graded stakes races all across the country this week to handicap. We'll begin with the DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's feature race at Keeneland. It's the Grade 2 Fayette Stakes. $200,000 is the purse at 1 1/8 on the main track. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, even though Neolithic is not the morning line favorite, that honor goes to the number 5, Honorable Duty. We'd have to agree that he's the horse to beat.
Absolutely. You just look at the company that he's faced and obviously some of the races that he's run, and also you have to factor in the pace scenario, the way this race looks like it could shape up on paper. He figures to be loose on the front end, and if he is, he's going to be very, very tough to run down.
We're going to go back to his race 2 starts back after finishing 3rd in the Pegasus World Cup, 3rd in the Dubai World Cup. He got a deserved break, Mike Beer. He came back at Saratoga at a distance that might be a little bit shorter than his best, and he got through it.
Yeah, this was just basically a starting off point, I would think, first time back from Dubai, and it was nice to see him run down this field going 7 furlongs. He made his next start in the Woodward against Gunrunner, no chance that day, but I thought he ran, all things considered, I guess he ran fine. I agree with you guys. I think he is the horse to beat. I also think he will be the favorite at post time.
Our friends at Timeform US put up the pace projector for every race run in North America. Here's the pace projector for the Fayette. That blue bar indicates this race may favor horses on or near the early lead, and as as you see, the number 2 Neolithic could be as loose as he wants to be. That makes him very dangerous. That makes him the horse to beat. And we're going to try to beat him. Mike, who are you going with?
I'm going to try and beat him with the horse that they made the morning line favorite, and we'll see how it all shakes out at post time. But Honorable Duty is the number 5 in this race. And yeah, maybe Neolithic has a little bit more early speed and will get loose on the lead in here, but it's not like Honorable Duty's some, one-run plotter and can't keep up. I think he can get the right kind of a trip in this race. This horse has really improved, I think, for Brendan Walsh. 3 for 5 this year. The only times he didn't win, he got wired in the slop, and then he ran into Gun Runner in the Grade 1 Stephen Foster. He ran second in both of those races. I think he gets the right trip in this race. I think he's second choice, and I think he can beat Neolithic. It's not like I'm terrified to bet against Neolithic in this race at a short price. This is Honorable Duty's win in the New Orleans Handicap earlier this year. He had a fast pace to run into in this spot, but I like the way he comes and gets this horse on the lead. This horse, he's done nothing but run good races over the last 2 years.
Nice versatile running style for Honorable Duty. Here he is in the New Orleans running down a nice horse in Breaking Lucky. Last time out in the Lucas Classic on the lead throughout. 3 straight triple-digit Buyer speed figures on fast dirt tracks. Maybe he can keep Neolithic a little bit honest in the early portion of this race. Matt, you and I have been the fans of the player for a long time. I'm a little bit worried about the distance.
Yeah, as am I. I guess that's the real bugaboo here. He's a little bit lightly raced, so I kind of like that part about him. But we're going to take a look at his past performances, and you're going to note that he hasn't had the opportunity to go this long, really, ever in his life, other than maybe one instance. He's been kept to one turn more often than not, and I just wonder if it's an instance where, okay, if Neolithic doesn't fire, if maybe Honorable Duty, who I think is just as likely a winner as Neolithic is, if not for the tactical difference, I wonder if the player is just kind of the up-and-coming horse that maybe he's one that can take advantage at a decent number.
He's going to be your top selection in this race. He is 4-1 on the morning line. I think he's going to drift a little bit. He did try 2 turns in the Indiana Derby last year. He caught Cupid that day. That race preceded a long layoff. A mile and an eighth is a little bit of a question. I liked his most recent race in the ACAC, where he was no match for the odds-on favorite Awesome Slew, who was plugging on in the stretch and trying pretty hard. I'll take a chance with the flip player as well, but they're all going to have to beat Neolithic. Nicole Russo is a very promising 2-year-old that you may want to keep an eye on, based in Kentucky, for her pedigree pick segment. Let's go to that piece right now.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you from Kentucky, where Churchill Downs is getting ready to open its fall meet on Sunday with the Stars of Tomorrow card, which features 4 stakes for juveniles. The richest of those are the Spendthrift Stallion Stakes, inaugurated last year for the progeny of Spendthrift Farm Stallions, this year expanding to include both a males division and a fillies division. The star of the latter looks like Mia Mischief, by Spendthrift's leading juvenile sire Into Mischief. Now, Mia Mischief made her debut right here at Churchill, was clear in the stretch, but was caught late by Princess Warrior, who flattered her when she came back to run second in the Grade 1 Alcibiades, and she's bound for the Breeders' Cup. Mia Mischief returned at Keeneland and just absolutely freaked on a wet track, took the lead and did not look back, powerhoused her way through the lane for a 16 1/4 length win, supremely eye-catching. Looking at her family, Mia Mischief's dam Greer Lynn got her only career win going 6 furlongs, defeated High Tap, who went on to become a multiple graded stakes winner. The daughter of champion sprinter Speightstown is the dam of Lawton, who finished 3rd in last year's inaugural Spendthrift Stallion Stakes. Greer Lynn is out of Roll Over Baby, a multiple stakes winner and stakes-winning juvenile who won 10 of her 19 starts, very productive mare. That makes Greer Lynn a half-sister to Value Plus, a stakes winner who set a track record going 7.5 furlongs and was Grade 1 placed at ages 2 and 3. Also to Grade 3 winning sprinter Sing Baby Sing, Grade 3 winning juvenile Roll Hennessy Roll, and stakes winning miler Major Big Time Sheet. So nothing but speed and classy precocity in Mia Mischief's pedigree. Not necessarily a filly I'm looking at for, say, the Kentucky Oaks or those targets down the line stretching out, but Sunday's 7 furlong distance should be well within her scope, and I think this filly could easily graduate to open or graded stakes company down the line. I'm looking for her to be a very exciting sprint filly. Certainly that maiden win really turned my head. Stay tuned for more on Out of the Gate after these messages.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
4 stakes races, 3 graded on tap at Belmont Park on Saturday. We're going to take a look at the field for the Bold Ruler Handicap. It's a grade 3 going 7 furlongs on the dirt. $200,000 is the purse. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races all weekend long, visit video.drf.com or check out the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, this is a big, gigantic field, and I guess kind of the acid test for the number 9, Seymour Deeney, who I made a horse watch here on Out of the Gate way back when, it seems. He's won his last 3 starts by a combined 36 lengths. Where's he been?
Well, that's the problem. It sounds like there have been little hiccups here and there, and you're right, this is the acid test because he's never faced horses of this caliber before, but my goodness, he couldn't be any more impressive. His most recent start was in a restricted race at Belmont Park. This was back in July. We're going to take a look at that replay now. This is the state dinner, and he's already out there, and he's cruising. I know it's a little bit of a wet track, but you see the fractions, and you see the way that he's going to go on and just absolutely destroy this field. Now, okay, if you want to look at it and say he beat Ocean Knight and some other horses that are probably over the top, that's one thing. I kind of look at it and say he ran every step here. The problem is, you said it before, Dan, well, you don't put a good horse away for this long.
113 Beyer speed figure he earned in the state dinner, his 3rd consecutive win at 1 turn miles. He's going to have to turn back to 7 furlongs this race, a very important prep perhaps for the Cigar Mile. And Mike, a horse that just missed in the Cigar Mile last year, Divining Rod, looks to be coming back to himself.
Yeah, that was a tough beat last year in the Cigar Mile for this horse, but with that being said, it really feels like this horse found his calling in that race. They turned him back to the 1-turn race for the first time in forever in that spot, and he ran really well, and I just like the way that he's come back this year. I know it was a little bit of a layoff for him. It took him a while to get back to the races, but he's gotten back this summer, all 1-turn races. He's run really well in all of them, and that includes his most recent start. We're going to look at the Kelso, his last race. Now, he doesn't win this race, but boy, I got to believe that he ran maybe every bit as well as he is capable of running in this spot. Sharp Azteca didn't take that much pressure on the lead in here, and he's a good horse when he gets loose. Look at this horse. Divining Rod just chased this horse home through the stretch. He does not give an inch. He can't get to this horse in the stretch, but he does not give an inch in here. I love the way that he finished in here. I think this is a good spot for this horse to finally get off the mark.
Divining Rod tried real hard in the stretch behind Sharp Azteca, who's going to be one of the favorites, obviously, in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. It looks like he's coming into this race the right way. Matt, you want a price, though? This is a horse that does it against the optional claiming types and looks like a stakes horse. What happens when he faces stakes horses?
Yeah, Tail Saval, he may not be quite this good, but I kind of just wanted to shop around. I think Divining Rod is the horse to beat. There's no question about it. But I'm going to go back to the foregoing. We're going to take a look at the way that the race was run early on for Tail Saval. Look at who he's pressing on the front end here up at Saratoga. That's Dreyfong. Dreyfong is going to be the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Sprint next Saturday afternoon down at Del Mar. He doesn't want to run this way, Tail Saval. I think the ideal running style, take him back 3 or 4 lengths, let the speeds go. Luckily for him, there seems to be plenty of that in this spot. He's far from the likeliest of winners, but if I'm looking for a little bit of a price, maybe it's Tail Saval.
I like that clip you picked out because not only did you see Tail of Saval pressing the pace, but also Stowalk and Dude is in this race. And if you know anything about Stowalk and Dude or Tail of Saval, it's they like to be far back. The fact that they're pressing the defending Breeders' Cup Sprint winner shows you that there was no pace in the race and that they might have been taken a little bit out of their game. Interesting long shot pick, Tail of Saval in the Bold Ruler. Though, I'm going to go with Mike, Divining Rod. It just seemed like after he wasn't going to make the Metropolitan Handicap, the early season goal for the Arnaud Delacour trainee. They circled the Cigar Mile. They've gotten several races into him now, which I believe is key for a horse that, like Seymour Deeney, has had his share of physical issues. I think Divining Rod's going to come into this race the right way, should get a nice stalk and pounce trip as he preps for the Cigar Mile. We're going to move from dirt to turf, from sprint to route, from New York to Southern California. The Twilight Derby's next. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's feature race at Santa Anita. It's the Grade 2 Twilight Derby at 1 1/8 on the turf. $200,000 is the purse. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, it's a fun race. You've got a big field. There should be an honest pace on tap, but you really like the horse that's just dominated the 3-year-old turf division in Southern California in his last few starts.
Yeah, I wish I could get cute in here, but I just think Sharp Samurai is coming into this race in raging form, and we're going to take a look at his most recent run in the Del Mar Derby. I'm not concerned about him carrying his racetrack or anything like that. Obviously, he's run well at Del Mar, but he's run just as well at Santa Anita. You see him right now. Stevens is, unfortunately, let's be honest, he was kept 4-5 path throughout here, and he's still just that much better than everybody else. And I can understand anybody that wants to make a case for the runner-up or the third-place finisher. I just happen to think Sharp Samurai might be a little bit better than them.
Mike Beer, you like a horse that Sharp Samurai beat most recently. That's Big Score, a horse that on his best day can easily win a race like the Twilight Derby.
Yeah, I do think he's good enough to win. We'll see. I really do agree with Matt's take on Sharp Samurai, though. I just feel like he's a really good horse. Going back to Big Score, though, in that race, the replay that we just watched, I mean, I feel like you could make the case that if Big Score, you saw him have to switch out behind Sharp Samurai in the stretch in that race before he started making ground. I feel like you could make the argument that if you reverse trips, maybe Big Score wins. And then, of course, he has another big win from earlier this year. We have the replay of the Transylvania at Keeneland. You know, they sent this horse on the road this year for his first few starts. He runs really well. He got a good trip in this race, but he runs really well to win this race, his first start of the year. I thought he backed this race up really well in his next 2 starts. He didn't win either of them, but he ran really well both times. And again, I liked his last effort behind Sharp Samurai just fine. Maybe he's a little bit of a better price this time, and I'll take a shot that he can turn the tables.
Big Score in his last few races has also shown improved tactical gear. Earlier this year, late last year, sort of a one-run closer. He's gotten his head into the game a little bit earlier, and I think that could help him in a spot like the Twilight Derby. Call it East Coast bias if you want, but I want a shipper from the East Coast in the Twilight Derby, and we've got a few in this race. I'm going to go with Profiteer for Shug McGahee and Mike Smith, the number 9. This is a horse making his 3rd start of the form cycle after pairing up Bayer Thompson his first 2 races back. A win at Saratoga against some decent older optional claiming runners, and then this race at Laurel, his most recent start, the Commonwealth Derby. That's Just Howard, who's also in the Twilight Derby. He got the nice pocket trip sitting in behind Voodoo Song, the favored pace setter. I thought that Profiteer was hemmed in a little bit on the turn, and by the time he eased out, it was just a little bit too late. He's kind of a grinding sort, and Just Howard got the jump on him. I wonder if Profiteer was able to get out on the turn and come with a wider run if he could have made this a little bit closer. But he's lightly raced, he's got some upside, and he's a little bit of a price on the tote. 6-1 on the morning line for Profiteer, my top pick in the Twilight Derby. JK's play of the day, well, it's a Belmont pick 3 on Saturday. Craig Milkowski's Time Form U.S. Spotlight looks at the bold ruler from Belmont. Let's hit those segments.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. It's the calm before the storm. Breeders' Cup right around the corner, but there's still some opportunities to be had. A horse showed up on my watch list that I had a trip note on that I put in DRF Formulator, and it happens to be in race 5 at Belmont on Saturday. I'm going to start at pick 3 with that spot, singling the horse. The number 8 horse, Congruity. I thought that horse was in the middle of a really fast pace last time. First time on the turf for Chad Brown. The horse took a lot of money that day, was 3-2, first time turf, and it was ridden on the front end pretty aggressively by Irad Ortiz, and that's not really Chad's style of training. The race fell apart, and I would expect this horse to run much better in here in this spot, and I think there's going to be a little bit of value there. Chad's got another first-time starter in here. You got names like Shug McGahee, Mike Maker, Kieran McLaughlin, Mark Cassey, Bill Mott, Christophe Clement, Michelle Nevin. All of these horses are going to take a little bit of money as first-time starters. I would imagine that the world wouldn't think there's much value on a horse coming second off of the second time off of his first turf start, and I think that horse is going to run better there. In the second leg, I don't have a strong opinion here. I'm going to just try to survive and advance here. I'm going to use the 2, the 5, the 7, the 9, the 11, and the 13. I believe the 13 is also eligible, so he might not get in. She might not get in. This is just a spread situation for me. I want to be alive here. I have an opinions that kind of book in this pick 3, so I wanted to kind of find a way to get through this one. Nothing really clever to say about the 6th. And then in the 7th race, I'm going to use the 2 Chad Brown horses. Alicia's World, who seems to continuously get bad trips. She's been working with Lady Eli. And I think that it kind of shows the direction that she's going in. There's a little bit of pace in front of her this time. She should be able to close into that. And then I'm going to use the other Chad Brown, Off Limits. That horse was super impressive last time, closing into a moderate pace. And the Noble Damsel was super impressive. If you watch that tape, the jockey didn't even use the stick. So I think that those two Chads can get me out in race 7, the last leg of the pick 3. So on the front end, I'm going to single Chad, and on the back end, I'm going to single Chad. I'm just happening to use 2 horses. Good luck, and we'll see you next week for Breeders' Cup.
Hi, this is Craig Milkowski of Timeform US for this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Today we're going to look at the Grade 3 Bold Ruler, a 7-furlong dirt sprint being held at Belmont on Saturday. And I say Grade 3 loosely because that's what it is officially, but when you look at our race rating on the preview page of a 127, it looks like at least a Grade 2 race and maybe even borderline Grade 1. Drew a really strong field considering the Breeders' Cup's coming up soon. These are horses who, for whatever reason, weren't pointed there, didn't quite make the cut, but definitely a solid group of runners. I'm going to focus on 4 of those today, and it just so happens that they have 4 of the highest spotlight ratings that we show, which generally looks at a horse's best race. You'll notice I do have an X through one of them, which was Green Grotto. He has a 127, but he's a horse I'm not really interested in here. He's more of an aqueduct specialist. I believe he's 1 for 17 lifetime at Belmont. So I'm going to toss him out. I do think he will be on the pace for a little while, but don't consider him a serious contender. Before we get to those 4 horses, let's take a quick look at the pace projector. And the pace projector does, in fact, show Green Grotto in the front, along with Awesome Banner. Both of those 2 I don't really consider contenders, but they should set what should be an honest pace in here. The first horse I want to talk about is Stallwalkin' Dude. I kind of made an abbreviated edition of his past performances, and what I did was eliminate all the Grade 1 and Grade 2 races where he's really struggled and showed just all his Grade 3s and his listed stakes. And you'll see he's always right there, always hits the board, a lot of wins, a couple narrow losses. And he did, in fact, win this Bold Ruler last year over this same surface. He's a horse who certainly fits in here. I imagine he's going to get bet pretty heavily off his narrow loss last time out in the Grade 1. But he's definitely a contender, but he's not one that I'll probably be interested in betting at the price. Because like I said, I think this is better than a Grade 3 race. I think it's more along the lines of a Grade 2. The next horse I want to look at is Seymour Dini. He's a horse who has ripped off pretty unprecedented 3 races in a row where he's won by a combined 36 lengths, a little bit over that even. He's done it against lesser competition, a couple allowance races, one at Laurel, a minor stakes at Belmont, and 2 of those have come in the mud. What really catches my eye is after that huge last race where he ran a 134 Timeform US speed figure, he kind of went to the bench. He's been off almost 4 months. He's coming back at a distance shorter than he's used to. He's never won at this short a distance before, so he's another one who will probably be a short price. I certainly consider him a contender, but he's not one I'll be interested in betting here. We'll move on to the 2 that do interest me a little bit more. The first one is Mr. Crow, coming from the always dangerous Todd Pletcher. And he was a horse who just showed some crazy ability at Saratoga and broke his maiden with a 122 Timeform US speed figure, which is almost unheard of. And then he romped in an allowance race, getting an even bigger 128. I talked about him last time in that Grade 1 at Belmont as one of the Breeders' Cup races. He was a horse I wasn't interested in. I figured he would get bet pretty heavy, and it was a pretty big class hike. And he did kind of run that way. But what caught my eye is I think he had a very, very tough trip. He had a bad start. And as a horse that's been used to being up close to the lead, he got caught a good 3 lengths behind 2 really fast horses in Takaful and El Deal, who just ran away from the field, ran 1-2 around the track, and just ran a good race. I think he was putting his start and the speed of the 2 in front of him put him at a disadvantage. But here, I think he could actually be right up there with the other 2 and consider him a strong contender. I'm not sure what kind of price we're going to get on him. I will find out on Saturday, but I think he may offer a little bit of value. But the horse that interests me the most is Divining Rod. He's drawn outside in this field, and he's a horse who showed a lot of promise last year. He just narrowly got beaten a Cigar Mile, a Grade 1 to Connect, who was a good 3-year-old at the time. He's kind of vanished now. I think he's been retired, but if not, he hadn't been seen in a while. But he was a really talented horse. You can see he ran a 128 that day. And then he obviously had some issues because you can see the reg layoff line. He was off 250 some days. But he came back in the mud, won a nice allowance race at Laurel, did it easily, just sitting off a slow pace and blowing away an overmatched field. And then he went in the Grade 1 Forgo, where he ran up against the Sprint Division champion, Dreyfong. He just kind of looped around the track on the outside, didn't do a whole lot of running, but he still ran another 121 speed figure. The one that gets me, kind of shows he's moving in the right direction. His last time out, he was second, beating 4 lengths to Sharp Azteca, who I believe pointed to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and is going to be one of the favorites. And he actually ran really well. He was wide the entire trip. He was kind of, you can see after a half mile, he was only 3/4 of a length off the pace while wide around the turn. He still was able to manage a 123 speed figure. And I think he's a horse that we can look to jump up. He should get a good trip from the outside, sitting off an honest pace. And I definitely think he's going to offer some value compared to the other 3 we looked at. So he's a horse I'll be betting, Divining Rod. And then if Mr. Crow offers some value, perhaps an exacta box with those 2. That's it this week for Timeform US. We'll see you again next week for the Breeders' Cup.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Mike Beer, NYRA analyst. You like something in the opener at Belmont on Saturday?
Yeah, we'll try and get Saturday started off right with double cast in the first race. I will admit that this is the last chance for double cast. She's a 3-year-old filly now. I've been chasing her for a little while. 3 times earlier this year when they went long with her on turf. Missed a nose, missed a head, missed a neck, ran well all 3 times, just couldn't get it done. I think against some slightly better fields, though. She came off a little bit of a layoff last time, stumbled very badly at the start, I think lost all chance. This is a blank field in the opener on Saturday. If she can't beat these guys, then I guess she's just never going to win a race. She's 6-1 on the morning line, and it's her last chance.
Matt, I'm going to have to scold you.
I know.
Your favorite son, Opportunity, makes his long-awaited return to the races in the Comet to the Top Stakes at Santa Anita. Where's the loyalty?
I'm ashamed. No, I understand. And look, I love him. I hope he runs well, but I don't think he's the right Baffer in this spot. Irish Freedom is an up-and-coming 3-year-old, I think. Earlier this year, they threw him to the Wolves pretty quickly. Ran him in the Santa Anita Derby. Didn't work out for him. Gone for a long, long time. Then he came back down in Del Mar. We're going to take a look at that replay right now. I got to be honest. I know there was a hot pace, and I know he may have been the one to kind of fall into it. He destroys this field. Now, it may not have been a spectacular field, but I love everything about the way that he did it. He earned a 99 buyer in this spot. Bejarano sticks aboard. It's also worth noting his most recent workout mates, in the morning anyway, have been Opportunity. He's been absolutely waxing him in the morning. There's just a part of me that thinks that Irish Freedom is the up-and-coming horse. I love Opportunity. Hope he runs well. I'm against him. Give me Irish War Cry. Irish Freedom.
You don't want Irish War Cry in that spot. Irish Freedom, though, was very impressive at Del Mar in that race. Kind of might be the now horse catching Opportunity in a race that might be a prep for the Clark at Churchill Downs later this year. I'm going to go with Parks. Race number 8, number 7, Pop Keenan. Pop Keenan, 2 starts back, went in against Restricted Company, just ran off and hid by 7 lengths. And last time out, they tried open non-winners of one other than Pop Keenan. A 3-year-old took on some salty, open, older runners. We're going to break from the gate, and he's the number 4. And this, unfortunately, is a little problem for Pop Keenan. He doesn't break very well. He's off the screen right now, and Frankie Pennington's just going to try to rush up down towards the inside to gain position. And this is a prolonged rush for Pop Keenan. After losing a few lengths at the start, he rushes himself in there, and you would think that a horse like this would really be tired, especially facing Open Company for the first time. But as they turn into the stretch, he is still very much in the thick of things. That was a fast half mile of 45 seconds. The leader, a horse that used to run in New York, he's still with Danny Gargan, is drifting out in the lane. Pop Keenan's still trying pretty hard. He's eventually going to finish 3rd. Buyer speed figure improved to a 79. This was only start number 4. He's facing some older, exposed horses in the race at Parks on Saturday. Pop Keenan's 8-1 on the morning line. Pennington retains the mount. In this 5.5 furlong race, though, it is imperative that he gets out of the gate in good order and grabs a strong early position. You're going to want to watch DRF TV all next week for Breeders' Cup. Not only are there going to be 2 special editions of Out of the Gate, Friday for Breeders' Cup, Saturday for Breeders' Cup, you'll have the expanded stakes previews at video.drf.com and the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel of all of the graded stakes races, great webinars, great podcasts, and of course on-site analysis from some of our best handicappers and contributors at the Breeders' Cup. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.